He was discarding her. He ripped her.
Robert Tellis was a lawyer and politician in Clark County, Nevada. He was also a family man. Jeff Garriman was a hard-nosed investigative journalist who had a reputation for exposing corruption in Las Vegas. One of the subjects of Jeff's investigations was Robert Tellis, who lost his re-election bid after Jeff's articles were published. So, when Jeff was brutally murdered, police looked at Tellis and then arrested him for the stabbing. Tellis says he's innocent, and today the prosecution rested their case, and now it's time for Tellis to tell us his story. We'll break it down. But first, it's one of the most disturbing cases we've seen at court TV. This man, Sean Finnegan, along with his much younger fiancée, Rebecca Dishman, abducted a young woman named Jennifer Paxton. And while in captivity, they allegedly chained her up, sexually abused and tortured her over the course of days. Eventually, she was murdered and mutilated, her nose and breasts cut off and used for sexually deviant activities. She was then placed into a stand-up freezer. The darkness of this tale is extreme. The allegations absolutely horrid. A jury has heard all the evidence and the arguments, and now it's time for them to speak and deliver justice as we have all the latest from the courthouse in Tennessee in this death penalty trial. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you with us. This case, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, but it's reality. This happened. This actually happened. This isn't some horror movie. It's real life. And Jennifer Paxton suffered. This woman absolutely suffered. She was tortured. So many parts of this are repulsive. So many parts of this are inhumane. So many parts of this are so incredibly tragic. But it did happen. And this victim really suffered. So that's, to me, that's the baseline and the predicate of this whole case. Is, yeah, we can talk about the behavior of these two people, but let's talk about what the victim went through here. Because our system of criminal justice is in place for more than one reason. It's to find the truth, and then if the truth leads to the defendants, it's time for some punishment that is appropriate under the circumstances. So let's talk about Rebecca Dishman. What was she? Was she a victim or a co-deviant in all of this? You know, I listened to her testimony. I saw her testify. I know she's pleaded guilty. She's got a deal the rest of her life. She'll be behind bars. I get it. But there was no potential for her to go to death row as a result of this deal. But then you have to take a look and listen to her testimony. Is everything she's saying, was it the truth, the whole truth? Did she try to minimize her behavior? Did she try to portray herself as a victim? Was she actually a victim in this case, along with being the co-deviant and co-defendant? Now, Sean Finnegan claimed that Rebecca was the one who did it. That's what he said in his interview, interrogation, whatever you want to call it. He's the one on trial here. He's the one facing a potential death sentence. So what he said to interviewers, obviously he's going to try to minimize, but was there a kernel of truth in all of this? Like, distinguishing between the two is important for this jury to understand and this jury to get to the truth of what happened. Now, this jury working hard. They worked over the weekend. They came in on the weekend. I didn't work this weekend, but they did. They came back in on Monday today, and they continued their deliberations. And for them, there were a series of charges. So it wasn't a simple, did he or didn't he do it? It was a little more complicated than that, with all the list of charges and potential charges and lesser included, etc., for this alleged behavior that involved two people, but there's only one on trial.
right? So you've got to figure out exactly what happened here. What did she do? What did he do? What do I believe about what she said happened here? And how does it match up with the allegations? How does it match up with the instructions that the judge gave this jury? So they worked over the weekend. They worked today, and today they delivered their verdicts. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Finnegan, if you and your counsel stand up, please, sir. Count one, premeditated first-degree murder of Jennifer Paxton. We, the jury, find the defendant Shannon Finnegan guilty of criminally negligent homicide. Verdict form for count two, first-degree felony murder of Jennifer Paxton during the perpetration of attempt to perpetrate aggravated rape. We, the jury, find the defendant Shannon Finnegan guilty of first-degree felony murder during the perpetration or attempt to perpetrate for aggravated rape.
A little bit of nuance from this jury, right? I told you they were working. I mean, first-degree premeditated murder was count one. They didn't find him guilty of that count one. They found him guilty of a lesser included in that count one. Take a look, because you've got to go through all these charges to understand what this jury did. So first-degree premeditated murder, right? He planned to kill her. That was his entire modus operandi here. No, guilty of the lesser included criminally negligent homicide after the testimony that we heard? Wow. Count two, first-degree felony murder in the perpetration of rape, guilty. Okay, thank you. Count three, first-degree felony murder in perpetration of kidnapping, guilty. Got it. That's important because of what happened in count one. Count two and three, extremely important here. Count four, aggravated rape, guilty of the lesser included attempted aggravated rape. Huh? Count five, aggravated rape with bodily injury, not guilty. Wait, wasn't she abducted? Wasn't she chained up? Weren't there marks on her neck from being strangled? Wow. Wow. What does this jury believe happened here? Like, who is the one determining what happened here? This is amazing. Like, it's not a win. Trust, it's not a win for the defendant, but it's a little confused. It's a little nuanced here in what they believe happened inside that home over the course of days as the victim was chained up, unable to leave. All right, we've got more. Where was I? Count four, count five, not guilty. Count six, guilty aggravated rape. Count seven, aggravated kidnapping, guilty. Those are the ones you need for the counts 3 and 4, for counts 2 and 3. Count 8, especially aggravated kidnapping using a deadly weapon, guilty. Okay. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, not guilty. Count 10, conspiracy to commit aggravated rape, guilty. Count 11, conspiracy to commit aggravated kidnapping, guilty. And count 13, tampering with evidence, guilty. Okay. I want to remind you of the testimony they heard from Rebecca Dishman, because are they believing everything that she said in this case? Because there are not guilties in here. Take a listen as she describes how the victim died in this case.
Did she ever tell Mr. Finnegan she needed to leave or wanted to leave?
Yes.
What was his reaction?
He told her that as he was killing her that she wasn't going anywhere, that she was going to die.
So when you say he said he told her, "You're going to die."
Yes.
What did she do?
She started crying.
And what did he do?
He just kicked her and spat on her. And he was straddled over her, strangling her with a shoestring, and told me to help him. And I just shut down and sat on the bed and just gave up, essentially.
How long did this go on?
For hours.
Could you describe for us specifically what was going on in the course, if you say this was hours?
He would start and stop, like take breaks in between. She was taking her last breath, and I got on my hands and knees and told her goodbye because I knew she was dying. And he came back inside and slapped me across the face.
Let's try to unpack this a little bit. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Also with us in Stamford, Connecticut, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland, and in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Al, trying to understand what this jury is saying with this not guilty to first-degree premeditated murder, but guilty of the lesser included criminally negligent homicide. They heard that testimony I just played.
Well, you know what? Kudos to defense counsel. Defense counsel was portraying her as the impetus to this, as the person that was setting all this up, as the person that did this, and they were able to sway some of the jury. I mean, criminally negligent homicide means you're causing death by reckless or some sort of careless behavior or things along those lines. I mean, what? I think it's a bizarre finding, but I got to give credit, and we always have to give credit to defense counsel, who takes a case like this, which has got really nowhere to move, and is able to find something to hang a hat on. And they did. I gotta, I mean, we need to salute defense counsel that take cases like this, because
okay, yes, I get it. We'll salute them. Here's a salute to, doing their job. I get it. But I'm trying to understand how the jury got here. Were they bamboozled? Darnell, were they bamboozled? Did they watch a different trial than me? How is this negligent homicide?
Yeah, well, the funny part about it is that, if we had any doubts that Al was a bleeding heart liberal, is tonight with all those gun salutes to these defense attorneys. I think what you have here is the jury who get the jury instructions, and sometimes they would do what they call jury nullification. They would say, although the instruction says like a jigsaw puzzle, in order to find this, you have to find this. They would just move that to the side sometime and say this was so heinous and so gross of a murder that we're just going to go ahead and find this guy guilty of premeditation. But what happens when the prosecution does these deals, the whole system is a plea deal system. So they pled this other young lady out, and then they gave, as Al was saluting to, they gave the defense an opportunity to say, well, she has immunity. She's already pled out. Let's just hang it all on her. And the jury then looks at the instructions and says, well, your behavior was so negligent that the homicide that flowed from your behavior or your participation, we can get you on that. But if she was the one that was thinking this and putting this together, you should not have participated, and you did, so we have to hang you with this. And that's probably because they did a strict reading of the law, and the prosecution let somebody out by giving this lady a deal. Sometimes they should do no deals. You guys are former prosecutors. Do no deals. Put them both on trial and prove your case.
Jennifer Brandt, I'm trying to understand in what world and how they get to negligence here. And I understand there's other counts, felony murder they found. So, yes, there's still going to be a penalty phase here. I get it. But I don't understand how negligence, like, oops, I put the string around your neck and killed you over the course of hours after telling you that you're not leaving. So I guess they didn't believe Rebecca Dishman?
No, I think that they believed, I mean, yes, I don't think they believed Rebecca Dishman. I think they believed that Rebecca Dishman was a greater participant in this and perhaps was the impetus behind all of this and was the person who actually killed this woman as opposed to Sean Finnegan. And I agree with Darnell. I'm troubled by the fact that she got a deal and he didn't. And now it's, you know, now we're saying put it all on him, but you know, we know that she was very much involved. She was there the whole time. He's saying that, you know, it was her idea. She was the one that was left alone with the victim more than him. He went to work, that kind of thing. So it gives the jury an ability to give him an out. Although I really don't understand, hearing the facts of this case, how either of them should not have the death penalty. So it is so disturbing and so horrific.
I want to take a listen to more of Rebecca Dishman, Al, because she described a lot of conduct here, or alleged conduct, by Sean Finnegan. Let's take a listen.
He was disgrading her. He ripped her pants down and was screaming at her and said...
I need you to speak up some more, a little louder, okay? A little closer to the microphone.
He said, "Why don't you shave?" And she started crying, and he just spat on her and was really aggressive towards her. He forced her to perform oral sex on him, and I was forced to watch.
And so forgive me for being very overt with this, but you say he forced her to perform oral sex. Could you tell us where his penis is?
He put his penis in her mouth and ripped her clothes.
And she's in the floor next to the bed?
Yes.
Where are you?
I was crouched beside him.
And how long did that continue?
Until he got angry and pulled my shirt down and made me finish.
And what do you mean by he made you finish?
He wasn't satisfied with her, and he made me perform oral on him.
Were there anything else that he did sexually at any point to Miss Paxton?
He forced my adult toys inside of her and forced his fingers on her and forced me to watch. And also, at one point, she was on the floor and he was behind me and he forced me to climax over her. I couldn't climax until he forced me to climax.
But that does mean that you were participating. And when you say he forced you to climax, what do you mean by that?
He physically, aggressively rubbed me until I climaxed.
Okay, so he is touching you while you're over her.
Yes.
If we have the picture of that. And what did he do at your climax?
She was revolted by it, and she said I was gonna throw up, and he slapped her across the face.
Okay, let's bring back in our think tank. Al, as it pertains to the rape, there's a mix of not guilty to aggravated rape with bodily injury, but also a guilty of aggravated rape, a guilty of aggravated kidnapping. So as you try to parse through what this all means, I think the one thing it means is that the jury took their job very seriously and didn't just across the board say, this guy's no good, he's guilty of everything. They took their job seriously and really went through each count of this indictment.
They absolutely did. I mean, they spent a tremendous amount of time considering. I mean, I would have thought this was one of those ones where you didn't even leave the jury box. You just kind of went, you know what, guilty on all counts. And they went through each one of these charges, and they followed their instructions, and they did what they were supposed to do. We can never fault a situation like that, because this is what we want our jurors to do. We don't want them to be, just blindsided and say guilty across the board without doing what they're supposed to do, which is parsing the evidence, looking at everything, applying it to the law that they've been told and their instructions, and coming up with a verdict. They came up with the right verdict. I mean, ultimately, it's not going to matter. He's going away, and he could be going away big time as the penalty phase starts tomorrow.
All right, Think Tank staying with us. We've got more to talk about in this verdict tonight, and Rebecca Dishman. We're going to do that, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Carly Gregg, a 14-year-old girl, is accused of shooting her mother to death and then inviting a friend over to see her dead mother's body. What happened inside that home? We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least two sides to it.
to dive into the latest
Oh my God.
and breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside
I've never seen that in Discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
and outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central. Only on Court TV.
Don't let them base their entire case, which they have, on Rebecca Dishman and the fact that they're trying to tell you that she's incapable of lying. The fact that the DA just stood up here and said that Rebecca Dishman is incapable of lying should give you pause. That's a bold statement to make about their witness, isn't it? I mean, I've heard about bolstering witnesses, but my witness can't lie. Wow. So your first-degree murderer, rapist, kidnapper doesn't have the ability to lie.
That's Sean Finnegan's attorney in his closing argument, making a big point. Rebecca Dishman, I mean, they were a couple living in that house where Jennifer Paxton was abducted, raped, abused, murdered, mutilated, etc. So she got life. Now it's time for Sean Finnegan. What does he get? Does he get life or does he get death? Does he go to death row? I want you again to take a listen to Rebecca Dishman, because this verdict from the jury was mixed to a certain extent. Here she is talking about the beginning of her relationship with the defendant, Sean Finnegan.
I had met Sean on Facebook and decided to move in with him 2 weeks after meeting him. He convinced me.
So how did you feel about trying to move in with Sean?
At the beginning, I felt, comfort and safe.
Okay. Now, you said that he had convinced you to move in. Could you tell us about that, please?
Like, the first text that I recall is he was telling me that he wanted me to move in with him, that he wanted me to live with him and be his girl.
So what were things like when you moved in?
The first couple weeks were okay, and I went to go take a shower, and that was our first argument. He pushed me, and I ended up cutting my leg pretty bad, and that led to my first punishment. My ex had messaged me and was texting explicit messages, and it led to him getting angry with me and shoving me in the shower, which I cut my leg and fell.
Is that the only time something like that happened?
No.
Tell us about the next time you were called.
Later, when I got out of the shower, he told me that, he wasn't happy with me, and there was consequences to that. Like, I had to have sex with him, and he tied my hands to the bed and scratched me down my back and made me bleed.
Now, how would you consider the dynamic of your relationship? Who was in charge?
Sean.
And you had said you did something that made him unhappy.
Yes.
And that there were consequences. He told you there were consequences. Was that a normal part of your relationship with Sean Finnegan?
I didn't know that it would come to that extent. Like, I knew it would be kinky sex, but I didn't think it would be violent as it was.
Okay, how do we see these two? Are they co-deviants? Is he worse than her? She got life. Should he get death? I mean, should the system treat them differently? Darnell.
Well, I'm shaking my head because she's lying. She's straight lying. Now, rest in peace. I'm no Dr. Ruth, but Dr. Ruth told us all about sexual gratification and how to achieve it. And no one could force you to climax. In fact, under those conditions that she described, it's a mental thing that connects with climaxing. Al, you can sit this one out. So there's no possible way that she could have been forced to climax under those situations. So she's lying. Secondly, this prosecution is walking uphill, and I hate when they do this. They're making a deal with the devil, and they're asking stupid questions such as, can you describe the dynamics of your relationship? What is that about? And Flanagan's lawyer, he was on point when he said they're bolstering their witness, trying to make, chicken soup out of chicken you-know-what. And basically what he's saying is Flanagan's guilty of sin, and so is she, and we can't believe they're trying to let this lady out. But they're doing the best they can on Flanagan's team. So, what I would say when you see this type of stuff is they should have put them both on trial and tried their case and stopped with this deal making. It's ridiculous.
Okay. Jennifer Brandt, I want to show you testimony from someone who was not living in that house. Jennifer Miller, co-worker of Finnegan's. Here's what she testified to, and I want you to take this into consideration when we decide how should we deal with him versus her. Take a listen.
Did you ever have conversations with Mr. Finnegan about your personal lives?
Mm-hmm, yes.
Could you tell us what he would tell you about his romantic involvements?
I knew that he had 2 girlfriends, Becky and Jenny.
Could you repeat those names, please?
I knew that he had 2 girlfriends named Becky and Jenny.
Okay. And what did he say about those individuals?
I can't think of anything specifically. I just know that we had talked about it, that they were both staying there with him.
Did y'all regularly talk about people he was dating, people others were dating?
Yes.
Is that normal conversation there in the bar with employees?
Yes.
So did you follow up with him about having multiple girlfriends?
I did. We kind of would joke about it, or I would. I would joke about him having 2 girlfriends.
And so did that situation stay the same?
He told me at one point that Jenny had to go.
Did you follow up on any questions about that?
No.
Jenny had to go. Does that change the way you see these two? Are they the same? Are they different? Are they different?
No, I don't think it changes my thought at all. I think Rebecca Dishman, and the more I hear from her, the more disturbed I am. I agree with Darnell and what he had to say about her. I mean, she's disgusting, and she was a very willing participant and maybe was the person that was behind all of this. I mean, because it sounded like she didn't do anything. She heard all of these things, saw all of these things happening. He kept Jennifer Paxton there for days, was slowly torturing her. And what did she do? She was right there with him. She was crouching down next to him. She was having sex. She was right there with him, doing everything, maybe even encouraging him. And maybe that's why the jury found that the way that they did. I mean, I agree. She shouldn't have gotten a deal. She is just as guilty as he, if not more. And if there was anybody there who could have saved Jennifer Paxton, she was the one. She could have called the authorities. She could have done something. She wasn't being held against her will. She was there willingly.
Al, I want to play you one more piece of her testimony. This was right towards the end of her on the stand. Take a listen.
Did you love him?
Yes.
Do you still love him?
Yes.
Were these punishments he did and the things you described as harsh or aggressive, did those continue for your whole relationship?
Yes. And they continue to get worse.
All right, Al. She still loves him.
Well, I just want to mention one thing about Darnell must have got really excited about all the things he was talking about regarding climax and stuff, because he kept calling him Flanagan when the guy's name is Finnegan. So, Darnell, please calm down a little bit. And with regards to the fact that she said she still loves him, that's the jury's, that's the prosecution's nice little cherry on top of the sundae that they're trying to ram down the throats of this jury. That, oh yes, she still loves him despite all of this. And it's coming across with that to try to show that she's actually being truthful with regards to this matter. And right down the line, the jury didn't buy it. Defense counsel pointed it out, and kudos again to the jury, parsing out what needed to be done and delivering justice in this case.
Okay, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other big trial here on Court TV. Robert Tellis, what will he tell us when he takes the stand in his own defense?
I am someone who is human. I've all my life tried to do great work for people. I used to volunteer, donate, and just generally try to help anybody who needed my help. And so that's who I am. If anyone wants to believe otherwise, that's their choice, but I'm just somebody who's trying to do his best to be a good person.
Robert Tellis on trial in Las Vegas for the murder of the investigative reporter who investigated him and published articles that were very damaging to Robert Tellis. Robert Tellis was in office at the time as the public administrator of Clark County. He was then voted out of office. And then 3 months later, Jeff Gehrman, the investigative reporter, was stabbed to death outside of his home. And prosecutors say it's Robert Tellis. Now, Tellis has been telling us that he's going to testify. That's what we're hearing from the defense team. So I wanted to play a little bit of Robert Tellis trying to convince people to vote in his favor, just like he would want the jury to vote in his favor. This is what he said to the voters of Clark County, Nevada.
Hello, I'm Rob Tellis, and I'm your Clark County Public Administrator. A few years ago, when I started my first term, I found a disturbing situation at the office. Unfortunately, I found that there were cases that weren't being closed and hadn't been closed for years. I also found that checks to families were waiting to go out so long that the checks went stale before the families could get them. Tragically, there were even situations where the family members died before they could receive their own checks. But I'm very happy to say that we've turned that all around under my leadership. My staff and I have increased our customer service levels. We are now closing cases, and we are also making sure that checks get in the hands of families even faster. And we do it for you. I'd like to ask you for your help now. I'd like to ask you to please be sure to vote for me in this year's election. Please be sure to tell your friends and family about it. This is an important race, and I need your help. I'm Rob Tellis, and I'm running for Clark County Public Administrator. Thank you.
I am Rob Tellis, and I approve this message.
All right, let's bring back in our think tank. Still with us, Al Wunsch, Darnell Crossley, and Jennifer Brandt. So what did you think? I'm trying to understand why we were getting that side view of him. Anyway, okay. So Jennifer, there he is making his plea to the Clark County voters. Do you think he'll convince more members of the jury than more members of Clark County to reelect him?
I don't think so, Vinny. I mean, he did lose the last election, so I'm not so sure he's that convincing. But he is a politician, and he has a lot of practice wanting to and trying to convince people to do things. So, I expect to hear some interesting testimony from him, and I expect that he will strongly suggest that he was not involved in this at all and had no axe to grind with the victim in this case.
Al, I have more video of him trying to convince someone to do something. Here he's trying to convince police not to arrest him in a domestic violence call. Take a listen.
You just want to take me down because I'm a public official. I did not touch anybody. I haven't hurt anybody. I am just being approached, and like, you guys just want to take me down because I'm a public official. That's it. I'm a public official.
I'm sure your supervisors will love to see this bloody damage when they see it.
I'm a public official.
He's a public official.
Yes. So there's always a smart move when you're intoxicated to start throwing out authority that you don't have regarding the fact that you're the public advocate or whatever the situation is on that. Because I know the police are not that impressed with something along those lines. And the slurring should have definitely given the police a indication that this is a man that was probably guilty of what he was being arrested for. It's just horrendous, a horrendous situation. It's a terrible name for lawyers. It's a terrible name for public officials. And anyone that goes out there with that kind of, how dare you, do you know who I am? I mean, Darnell tries that all the time, and he still gets arrested. So,
Darnell, so I've got another example here for you, Darnell. This is Rob Tellis trying to convince a reporter from Scripps News Las Vegas and all their viewers what really happened here. So this might be what he says on the stand. Let's take a look.
Regarding what I've told you about the police misconduct. From the very beginning to the very end, there was misconduct. There's perjury, using illegal methods of surveillance, illegally holding me at a police station while they supposedly search my house. And I say supposedly because when I cannot personally watch that they're searching, I don't know when that supposed evidence that they've got, if it was there before, or if it got there when they started their search, because they decided to legally hold me at a police station.
Darnell, do you think he was proctored?
No. And I have all the notes on here. First of all, I don't get arrested for who I tell people I am. Like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, I get arrested because of who I am, fighting for the people. Secondly, let me just talk about his commercial. His commercial sounds like a Valtrex commercial. And I was waiting for the part where they say the side effects are disorientation, waste of time, and a guilty verdict after watching a politician on trial. Now, the worst thing you're going to have before you is when you have a guy sitting on the other side of a glass when he's talking to his lawyer and telling the lawyer about supposed evidence and all the stuff. Right there, I start to lose it. And I tell my clients, listen, if you're going to start doing this lawyer thing, we're going to have a problem. So all I need from you is the facts, and I'll apply the facts to the law. But this guy seems like he's going to go out there and try to tell his jury what the law is, be his own lawyer as we see, and it's not going to end well. So that's what I see with this guy.
There's been a lot of other evidence in this case, video evidence, and it seems that the only defense he would have would be to say that this stuff was planted, because the incriminating evidence was found in his house, and he's basically conceding that in the interview with Scripps News Las Vegas, Jennifer. So I guess he's got to get up there and say he's the victim of a conspiracy.
He's going to say that he was framed. The police are after him. He's a public official trying to do good for the people, and the police are corrupt, and they're after him, and people were trying to frame him and bring him down, and all he is a good guy out there fighting for all of us, making sure people get their checks and all of that. So, yeah, I think he is going to, he believes that he can convince people to do things just by virtue of him being a politician and seeing those commercials. So I think he's going to do that. What else can he do? They found his DNA.
He could cry. He's crying right now. Do you think he'll show?
Well, he may cry. He may cry. He may show emotion. I think he'll do anything he can to try to, defend himself and try to get out of these charges.
Al, is there any chance he gets cold feet and decides not to testify?
There's a ton of chance that that's going to happen. But, I mean, because he's got a legal team that's going to be saying to him, this is not a smart move. You're not a type of person that we can trust up there. And just like Darnell said, he's going to get up there and what I believe he compared himself to Malcolm X-Lax? Was that the person that he said that Darnell compared himself to? But Darnell will put his head next to his head, and the two of them will make an ass of themselves at some point in time.
Darnell, I'll give you the final word here. You have about 30 seconds.
My final word would be that, you know what, this is not a campaign for office. This is a campaign for his life, and he should listen to his lawyers. And if Al's one of his lawyers, he should probably represent himself.
Wow.
Oh boy.
Some bad blood tonight, Jennifer, right? I mean, this is...
I have a scream.
Out of it. I am staying out of it.
That's the Darnell speech. I have a scream.
All right. Al Wunsch III, Darnell Crossland, and Jennifer Brandt, thank you all so much. Great to have you on. We'll have you again. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, why would a 14-year-old girl walk into her mom's bedroom and shoot her 3 times and then invite a friend over to see her mom's dead body? We'll take a look as we investigate the case of Carly Gregg.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
Was a reporter brutally murdered for digging too deep?
Once all the evidence comes out, it'll be clear as day.
Will Robert Tellis go from elected official to convicted killer?
The Investigative Reporter Murder Trial, weekday mornings on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. And sentenced to 11 years, that is Crystal Kaiser. That name should sound very familiar to you. It's a case we've been covering for years here on Court TV. There she is inside court today. No video cameras, no microphones permitted. They locked us out, so otherwise you would have seen this today on Court TV. Sentenced to 11 years. She killed her sex trafficker, a man who trafficked her since the time she was a young teenager, 15, 16, 14 years old. She killed him when she was 17. She was charged with murder because of a Facebook post where she posed with a gun and the BMW that she took from the sex trafficker that she killed and then burned down his house. Well, she was allowed to argue in her case that she was the victim of sex trafficking, and it was an issue the jury would have considered if this case went to trial. The prosecutor came down, gave her a deal for a lesser included. She took it, 11 years. She'll be out likely before she's 30 years old. So the case of Crystal Kaiser finally comes to an end. Before we go, this hour, I need you to take a look at your screen. We have a missing child. This is Autumn Olivia Feltner, just 17 years old, missing from Dayton, Ohio since August 15th. Here's what you can do. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Dayton Police Department in Ohio. That phone number's on your screen. Please take a look at Autumn's face. If you see Autumn, pick up the phone, make the call. Let's see if we can get her to a safe place tonight. Do not go anywhere. One more hour of live true crime coverage. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.